I think data protection should be the baseline of protection, not just for people in Europe, but for people around the world. And past week, we've seen Mark Zuckerberg make somewhat vague commitments to comply with GDPR, but what we really want right now is a strong commitment that he will offer the same protections for people around the world. So Facebook is a global company with 2 billion users, and in many countries around the world, they have very, very weak laws in combination with a poor human rights record that's very problematic.
I see one of your points is saying data protection law is what we need, not market-driven data ownership. And I think many people are not aware of the difference between data ownership and data protection. With data ownership, I still have the right to sell on my data. So can you give me a little bit more color as to where the regulation should come in on this point specifically?
So we think privacy shouldn't be a luxury. You shouldn't be able to sell away your data. In the European context, data protection is a fundamental right, which means no matter what you do with your data, so you're happy to share it, you're happy to download apps, be public, you still have rights over your data. And in this particular scandal, that's very interesting, in fact, because all these third-party apps who have harvested data of European citizens still have to comply with laws.
Frederike, many of people have spoken about actually new regulations coming into place. Of course, we have GDPR in Europe. But as you look at the US, do you expect there to be enough political will to push forward some new regulation that perhaps takes some principles from GDPR or mirrors it almost exact copy of it?
I think that is a very sensible step to take forward. The US has an under-regulated data ecosystem. There was a CNN Money analysis that showed every single candidate except one in the US presidential election has sold, rented, or handed on personal data of their voters. I think that just shows how problematic that is. The Equifax breach we've seen last year, the fact that gay dating apps share the HIV status. So this is a systemic problem, and I think the US hasn't been doing enough. And now we see, I think, because it has come to implicate elections and politics, people are very interested in taking steps.
So I read something alarming in your notes when it comes to the political parties as well. You said that the current draft of the UK data protection bill contains a number of provisions. Particularly, there's one paragraph you refer to which permits registered political parties to process personal data revealing political opinions for the purposes of their political activities. So they're coming up with this new regulation supposedly to protect people's data, but at the same time they're applying exemptions to political parties. Am I understanding that correctly?
You are understanding that correctly. So the data protection bill that's in the UK Parliament has exemptions. That's the norm throughout Europe, and the key term really is revealing political information. What Cambridge Analytica has done is profiling. So they harvested data, built a model to predict people's personal political beliefs, and this is exactly what you're talking about.